Good evening and welcome to Option Stender. It is Tuesday, crazy market moving Tuesday. We had CPI opening up before the bell, gapping prices up, super high, super strong, and we have a lot of new information to put out there. As the market gives us more information, we have to adjust. So it does not, and there is the bell. The market does not always like to, project price of what's going to happen next, especially into a big CPI moment. We were very confident that we would get a pullback this morning off of CPI because of the arrangements. Big tech was in, the 9 counts on QQQ, and we completely, I want to say, ignored IWM. I knew that they were poised to move, but I thought that with our pullback in SPY and QQQ, that we'd just make a slight new low, giving us some sort of expanded flat. In the IWM, we'd get our pullbacks, we start buying, and we head up. But we have this new information, so I want to give you my thoughts on that. So we're going to look at SPY and IWM on the daily time frames, and we'll keep it mostly at that. At the end, we'll go ahead and check out maybe the VIX and SPY on the 65. But I want to give you the projections of what I think is going to happen at this point, given the information that we have now. So, if you're new here, go down to that bottom right-hand corner, hit that Option Stender logo, and subscribe. Don't forget to like the video. That's the best thing that you could do for this channel. Please help us out. Hitting that like button and checking out the description. There's other ways as well. So, right now, in the larger picture on the daily time frame, I have mapped out in the turquoise here the scenario that I think is likely to play out. I don't think we're going to make new highs here on the all-time highs. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this to fail, possibly right up here at the 472. Remember that there's resistance there. Look at these boxes. I draw these boxes because there's zones of volume. That's how we make our support resistance. Well, this is going to be another big zone here. So maybe we get up to this zone, pull back, get up here to test the top, and that's it. Okay, so this is traditional technical analysis here. We had our initial move down. I think we're moving up, filling this wedge, and we break down from this bearish rising wedge. Now, QQQ, we're not going to look at it, but Qs can make a new high. They can make a new high while SPX does not. Okay, so keep that in mind. A little note up there, new document. Interesting. Okay, digging in just a little bit more, we had our pivots here, our head and shoulder neckline, and we had this pivot. I put it in dotted lines. I thought that might help a little bit more. They're not confirmed trend lines. These are possible. These are pivots. So we have 2 points. You need at least 3 points to start mapping out a strong trend line. Okay, so this is a pivot. In other words, if we get a pullback, this does not have to hold. It can. We have some confluence here if we do get a pullback. All right, we make it further down. Sure, there's support. Maybe that coincides with this pivot. And also this gap. So there's confluence there. We have to pay attention to it, but it is not necessarily a strong trend line. Not like the support resistant levels and some more of the actual trends that have 3 or more points. Okay, so huge gap up. Now we're talking gap here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe 5. That one's closed. I believe there's 5 or 6. I think 5, but there might be one I'm missing in here. 6 gaps, 5 or 6 gaps, wide open, right to this chop zone, right in the middle of it. So what do we think is going to happen next? This is possibly an exhaustion gap. That's one possibility. But let's go over and show my projection. So we're not really at, we are at a resistance area. We do have a gap that we just filled today right here. So this was a gap up and crap. Okay. We filled that gap just now at the end today. So we are getting some resistance there. We do have a little bit of room. If there's more room to run, we have a little bit more room for resistance, for a little bit stronger resistance there. We're super stretched out. Super stretched out. Doesn't mean we can't keep going. No, not necessarily. Let's go ahead and look at the projections here that we have going. So I have this weird looking thing going on here. A little bit of information there, but if this is to play out like I think it will, I'll even draw the top of the trend here so you can kind of see where I'm getting at. And so obviously I didn't draw it up here. So we have a little bit of room up here, but that's the all-time highs if we go out that far in time. So that could be a double top there, but it might be just a little bit steeper. This is just some sort of, it's not an actual placeholder. It's just kind of a projection of what I think is going to happen. Now, this whole thing, I think, well, if you're new here, let me pull back, because if you're new here, then you don't know. I did make a video on this. This is my primary situation now, and I think this is an A, a B, and a C. I have that wrong. What I think we have here is an A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With this 5th leg. Now on the Qs, it's a lot easier. Just say 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, things like that. A, B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the super deep pullback here. Okay, that's why I'm getting, because I didn't move these. Okay, so it honestly doesn't matter what I say about this. This is such a deep pullback that we can consider this a 3-wave move up, just how we have been calling it, as if this was the top. 3-wave move up, but now we're getting to a little bit more complex, where we have our A here after this 3-wave move up, our B here, a deeper retracement, and now we're looking for our C wave up here. All right, I already have the C up there. And I think because this is going to be a little bit more shallow, that we're going to have an ending diagonal. Now I can draw, it doesn't matter. I could say this is an A, B down here, and call this, a 3-wave move up here for 1. I think that's what I was doing before. I was playing with this 3-wave move up for A, or 1, 2, 3-wave move down for 2, 3-wave move up for 3, 3-wave down for 4, and then this would be a 3-wave move up for 5. But we're going to have a 5 waves here if we have a B. Okay, I know all that it sounds confusing. The whole point of this is that we think this move was one move finished. This was our next move finished, and now we're going in for our final move here. And that's different on Qs, on the triple Qs. Okay, so after our move down here, this, and the reason why I think this is an ending diagonal is because this looks like a 3-wave move. All right, we counted our 5 waves in there. We thought this was the top. We got a 3-wave pullback and a nice 5-wave move here. So this is a zigzag. Okay, so the bears and believe me, I'm a bear in the longer run, but I think this is, I don't think we make new lows here. I think we are going to continue higher to make a new high above this high, but not all-time highs. So the bears, the mega bears right now are going to say this is a 5-wave move down, and we retrace back to the 786 retracement. If you put your retracement on here, and on the SPX and SPY, this is very valid. I can see this count. So you came up to that 786, are closed right on it, and possibly reversing from here. It doesn't look like much of a reversal candle, but we do have PPI. We could gap down. If we big gap under, this would be a island or a abandoned baby. But this gap is very important. Clearly, the market thinks so. So it gapped over. Let's see if we gap back under tomorrow. But either way, we're looking at this being a 3-wave move up for a zigzag, ABC for a 1 in a ending diagonal. All of these waves are going to be 3 waves, mostly zigzags. Okay, so 1, 3-wave move down for 2, which this is going to be around and I have it on the hourly time frame, so we'll look at that. So it's a little more clear in the near term. So it's going to be a 50% retracement. Also, the former 62% from all-time highs. So this is clearly an important area. So I think we might come back to here. 3-wave move up for 3. 3-wave move down for 4. And you see I'm using a lot of these retracements as key areas. And we get above, and we're technically we'd call this a double top because we're really testing the highs here, all-time highs. I don't think we quite get it. But the 472, I believe, would be right where we're kind of looking at right here, about 472. So maybe we have a little bit of movement here. Okay, so will this play out exactly like that? Not exactly. We're just looking, this looks like 3 waves. So I think we get a 3-wave pullback, 3, 3, and 3 to finish. Okay, it could be a deep pullback. It doesn't have to go to 50%. It could come all the way back to fill out this trend line here to really test out the bears. Technically, all these moving averages, they're starting to curl a little bit, but they're still sideways. There's still work to be done for these things to start crossing above the 50, the 20, the 50. For these to cross over, there's still work to be done. They're technically sideways. So it's not unheard of for this price action, especially on OPEX week that we have here, to just, test all the way back down to the lows, possibly closing most of the gaps. All right. So it's not out, but it feels so bullish. It feels so bullish. What about when earlier in the year, we felt so bullish, we're just ravaging to the upside. We had a nice 50% pullback. Moving the upside, you think we could just keep going deeper, way deep, almost retraced back to the bottom on that pullback. Okay? I know that's why I think this is a 1 move here. And then that's correcting that entire move. So I do think that's why we pulled back so far. But so anything can happen over here, okay? Especially if we get that gap down. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll look at the 65-minute and just kind of to wrap things up so we can bring it back. But here is what we're gonna have to look side by side, because I don't think the Qs is quite as important. I'll be playing them, but not quite as important as what's happening with the IWM. IWM's just now breaking out from a downtrend line. All right. So if we're more bearish than we're supposed to be, if you look at the Elliott wave, a 62% retracement or 50%, it's this area from 180 to 184. So that brings us right about the center of this channel. That's all we're doing is we're making a bear flag. It's a channel. And if we get above this and hold above this, which if we're going to make new near-term highs, I'm going to give you two scenarios here. If we're going to make near-term highs and we start heading much lower, meaning that bearish situation that I told you in the SPY, that we're right at that 786 and we just continue down, well, this correction's already pretty much over. Maybe we get some sort of move tomorrow and we just continue lower. We corrected this and we continue this as a 1-2. Now, if you're in my camp where I think we make new highs but not all-time highs, we're going to have to crack this high here, but we should make this as pretty solid support. Okay, so this should be just an initial move here. Perhaps this is an ABC here for A. Maybe we come back a little bit, B, and continue higher. But whatever the case is, we think it's going to be corrective. And what I'm looking at is a little bit more of this leadership from IWM breaking out and pushing all the way to this 200, and we'll call it from 200 to 210 zone. Okay, so let's go over to the Elliott wave again. And what's happening, this would be our 1-2 setup. That's the bear. Or get these out of the way. And this, I think this one's a little bit more likely, seeing how the bulls are kind of taking over here. That's an A. We have an A, B, C, 5-wave impulse move of the C to end this, because we did make a slight new low, where that's an A. We're getting a corrective move. And notice where this and this impulse or finish of the series, if you take the length of all this, the 127% extension from there is at 208. That's a good target. That's how we actually measure moves like this. When a move happens, you look at the 127% retracement all the way to the 162. Could we make it up there? Possibly. So what do? This is, now we have to take this full length. If we think this is all an A, so you take all-time highs all the way down to the finish of this one move. If you consider this one move, then we're looking for our targets to be around the 50 and more likely the 62% retracement, which takes us right into our zone where we're looking at. Okay. And then even possibly, I'll make them purple just so they're different. Or I'll make them the same color as our AB, so it's a little more clear to me. And see, that could take us up to the higher range that we're looking at, but this would be more likely, and this would be our consolidation zone that we're retesting into the 62% retracement. So that's more likely in the scenario that I'm looking at being the primary for SPY. I think this will be the primary driver of the market to bring SPY up there at this point. If it's really, I think, starting to break out in the small, and you could see that reflected on financials and things like that. They're getting relief for rally, especially with TNX, the 10-year breaking down. All right, it broke from its channel. Now, with that said, we have to be careful of rejecting right here. So maybe this is our ABC and we reject here, pull back, get our higher low, and start heading for the moon there. And then we'll go back to SPY. Well, before we do that, let's check out VIX. Just to knock that out, we're at the channel support again. That's on here we go. We had our wedge. So this does kind of play for if this wedge holds, really we could just take off from here, and that would be our bearish scenario. So we have to keep in mind if VIX starts breaking above the zone, we have to be careful that the market isn't breaking down from this point. Okay. So if it's just back testing, which I think is the case of the smaller wedge, then it's going to back test the smaller wedge and come back further and retest this larger wedge. I think that's the more likely scenario. We get our bounce here. You see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move with divergence. We back test, head a little bit lower to back test this wedge. Again, doesn't have to touch the actual wedge. It just is considered a back test. That's the more likely situation. So with that said, let's go back to SPY. Let's go to the 65, wrap this up. Those are my projections. Let's go on the 65 minute. All right, so right now, yes, this could be our wedge. I think it's kind of obeying that right now. So we have a high here from these points to this point to the high, made a brand new high there. So we have some good touches on here. Also closed the gap area so I can get rid of this. Also, we had a what do you call it? A gap. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. I'm losing my mind there. I didn't notice we had just like this one, we had a island gap. So we had an island gap here as well that we just closed today. So holy cow, sorry about that. Okay. This is not my projection anymore. I will adjust this, but it does backtest the breakout from this point. So this could be our target somewhere down here, closing the gaps. On the 65, we have our wedge. We break down from this wedge tomorrow or by the end of the week sometime, whatever the case is, then we're going to start looking for targets. All right. The Elliott wave, again, we have our projections here. So we have our 50% retracement, which would be very typical for an ending diagonal for your initial wave 1. 3-wave move up for 1. Into that 786 area. 3-wave move down for 2. Into the 50%. Also the former 62%. And the 382. So we have a lot of confluence there. It's going to be a big zone where we at least get a bounce. Depending on what we see happen into this move, that could be it before heading higher. So we'll have to be careful about that. That will close a couple of the gaps. We have a gap here as well. So we have 1, 2, 3 gaps that would close. And perhaps even if we're more bearish, it could be an ABC into an A, B retracement, and then C lower. But the thing with this 3-wave move where I'm thinking this is the ending diagonal, because we counted this over and over. You have a 1, 2 right here. You have a flat. So we have a 1, 2, and then 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a 4, 5 to end this. This wave series, we were correct in our thinking that we were getting our pullback, but we got a really small ABC here, and that gave us our setup for a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. A beautiful 5-wave move into the 786. So to me, this is either a 3-wave move up, and now we start getting a reversal to get a higher low, or, and I don't have this mapped out this way because I just don't see it going higher, but if it does go higher, if price does go higher, then we have our wave 1 here, our wave 2 here, a shorter wave 3. We'll get a little pullback, wave 4, and then a wave 5 for our wave 1. And wave the third wave, or excuse me, the 5th wave cannot be longer than this wave 3 because it's not the long wave 3 is already shorter than wave 1. So that would give us a shorter wave 5 if we go higher, and that will give us another setup for a pullback, and that would be a 5-wave move up And now after that, and I don't expect you to remember this, I'll reach back at it. If we get a 5-wave impulse move, now we have to change our scenario that I think we're going to probably make new all-time highs, if that's the case. Because that would be a hell of a wave one to end off as a lower high. We'll just have to keep it in mind. Right now, I don't think this is an impulse wave, even though you can set it's very, very big, but it's a 3-wave move up for ending diagonal 1, ABC down for 2, and such. All right, so I hope that helps. I hope that kind of clears things up as price just continues to rip and feel like it's never ending. That's what they want you to think. It should have ended here, right? That was a nice impulse wave. It would have made our head and shoulders inverse. It was a beautiful setup. And the big question, really would be, and heck, if you guys want to stick around, you can end the video now. That's getting a little bit long, but the fact is, well, why don't we think that we don't just drop from here? This point, I talked about it in the cues. You're gonna have to go back and show you, check out some of the other videos. But the cues tell us that this is not another valid move. Headed down here, lower. All right, that'd be way too bullish for any scenario. And so, what we're gonna stick around here. I'm just gonna bring you around the world real quick. I'm gonna show you a couple things. Also, if you look on the weekly time frames, all the indicators are showing bullish scenarios. Okay, everything's bull cross, everything on the weekly time frame. So check that out on your own. Maybe I'll do a video on that tomorrow. We have a possible topping pattern here, a hammer. But if you look at Apple, broke out of a wedge. So I made myself on all of these some sort of area where I think there'd be a great pullback to. I shared this on the Discord and in Twitter. Pulled right back here for the back test. Phenomenal. That'd be a great pullback and then higher. Okay. If you go to Amazon. Go to Amazon, the daily time frame. Trend is our friend. We're right into resistance. Also, the 62% retracement. So this one is so likely to pull back. Great setup there. We are short. And this would be a wonderful place for it to pull back. It doesn't look that deep. It doesn't have to end here. We have an uptrend line and gap area here as well. This is where we just take profit, really. So again, that's like it just made a new high here. So I think we're looking for a 1-2 setup and then higher. What else? NVDA. Go to the daily time frame on NVDA. Again, we had this bull flag, broke out from it. I think we'd try to back test it. And look at these moving averages. They're sideways. So we're going to have to test those moving averages, maybe even a little bit lower. They're sideways, okay? They're not indicating anything. We're not crossing over. They're just now starting to curl up. Let's see, Google. Google's back testing the wedge. Back testing the wedge, and it's probably going to pull back, meaning we're looking for a 1-2 setup and higher. It's the same thing on every single one. Microsoft, I doubt Microsoft even pulls back very far. This one's really bullish. It has a 1-2, looks like a wave 3, possible 4 here, and then higher. I don't even think that one's really pulling back. Tesla's a little bit different as well. Tesla may help us. We're looking at it's right at this zone here in the gap. If it just continues to go higher, then we possibly have something going on here, meaning something very bullish. I don't know if you want to consider this an inverse head and shoulder or something like that, but either way, 3-wave move down. Maybe it's complete now. I thought we could get one more move down and I'd get into that bullish, but we're really working on this this pivot here. I have a channel drawn, but it's not, you know, price is moving around it. It's more of a pivot, and we're sort of getting over it. So if we hold on to this support here at the 234, then I could see this just going higher. But we're looking to pull back here. So what would be good for Tesla? Not that it has to, but maybe this is some sort of ABC, and we're still looking for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ending diagonal. That, you know, just looking to see what happens tomorrow if Tesla starts getting bearish. But really, now it's getting over its moving averages. They're still heading down, so anything could happen. But you know, Tesla's been our leader in each direction, so we'll see how that acts. And I think that was it. Meta? I don't think we covered Meta. Meta's just, again, it's one of those that's just bullish, but it's working in 3-wave moves. It's working in 3-wave moves, so I think this is a 1, 2. We're starting on wave 3, so this could be just the initial 3-wave move up for... this could be our A and B, C up for wave 3. It's going to be a lot higher than that. So I think we're starting to work on wave 3 right now. This being a 1, 2. Very deep retracement there. See what I mean? You have a 3-wave move up. Some people count this as a leading diagonal. That's fine too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But to me, they all look like 3 waves, 3 waves, 3 waves. So I think this is an ending diagonal as a 1, 3-wave move down for 2. Nice and deep. And then we're just getting our A and then B, C, much higher for 3-wave move up for 3, and so on, 4, 5. All right. I hope that helps out with the big picture. That's all I have to show you. We'll look at this a lot more on the lower time frames tomorrow. So thanks for joining us. Please like the video. We'll talk to you later.